He slid the folder across the table like it was toxic. Thin manila, no label, just a smug post-it. Comp final. I didn't open it, not because I was scared, because I already knew. The week before, I'd overheard him whispering near the glass door to HR, didn't even bother checking if I'd left the floor. Elise, she's not going anywhere, he muttered. Single, no kids, no leverage, she should be thanking us. I should have walked in then, should have shattered the illusion that I was invisible. But instead, I let him believe it. Let him keep thinking I was that quiet code ghost who only existed to push features under budget. What Martin didn't know, what no one in that pristine mausoleum of a product department knew, was that the most powerful tool we had wasn't his. Wasn't even the company's. It was mine. I registered the prototype under my name 2 years ago, back when the company shelved the entire compliance AI project due to resource refocus. I was told to scrap it, delete the repo, archive the concept. Instead, I took it home, rebuilt it from the ground up, and patented the damn thing under my LLC, quietly, legally, alone. And then, when layoffs started creeping like mold through the org chart, Martin suddenly changed his tune. Could you bring that little compliance flagger thing back online? Maybe just internal use? I played dumb. Which version? He waved his hand. Whichever works, so I gave him a sandbox version. He rolled it out company-wide last quarter, called it a miracle tool, showed it off to investors, took the credit, and now he sat across from me, waiting for a thank you because my raise got denied. His neck flushed red when I didn't touch the folder. You're lucky to have a job in this market, Elise. He didn't even blink when he said it, like it was protocol, like he'd practiced it in the mirror. I smiled. Martin, I said slowly, do you know what the term non-exclusive license means? He blinked once. Twice, I stood. And just so you're not surprised next month, I added, leaning down so only he could hear, the LLC that owns Clytemnestra just updated its pricing model. I walked out before he could respond. Past HR. Past the interns who'd stopped talking as I passed, out into the parking lot where the air didn't reek of burnt coffee and fake humility. In the rearview mirror, I watched that office one last time. He thought I was bluffing. He'd learn. The invoice hit his inbox at 12:01 a.m. the following Monday. Line item, Clytemnestra SAW S licensing enterprise tier billing cycle, quarterly amount due, $128,000 due date, immediate no warning, no grace period. Just a friendly, airtight contract attached, co-signed 3 months prior by him. Buried in his own paperwork like a landmine he never thought would detonate. He didn't even notice it when he begged for full integration privileges. Said I should bundle everything under one license so legal wouldn't have to pick through it. So I did, in bulletproof legalese, his name, his timestamp, his mistake. I spent the rest of that day sipping a ginger latte from across the street, watching as panic slowly infected the office like a slow gas leak. First came the reply-all email chain titled Urgent, Elise Tool $. Then a flurry of Slack pings I was no longer part of, but my friend Nora in DevOps forwarded me a screenshot with just 4 words from Martin. Who the hell signed this? But my favorite moment? A voicemail from Martin, voiced like he was trying to sound calm, but instead sounded like a wet cat stuck in a Roomba. Elise. Haha. Look, this must be some sort of miscommunication. We'll get this sorted. Just call me back, all right? We've got budget constraints and legal says. Well, you know how they are. We're all on the same team here. I didn't call him back. Instead, I uploaded version 2.1 of Clytemnestra to my platform, added paywalled features he didn't even know existed, geo-flagging, predictive compliance drift, and a small, silent alert module that notified me the moment his company tried to remove or overwrite the license, which they did, at 3:16 p.m. Their CTO, Gary, the same guy who once told me I was too emotional for back-end logic, ran a manual override on our tool's authentication node. 5 minutes later, entire compliance dashboard locked up like a bomb shelter. 4 states lost access to audit logs. 2 clients flagged the company for suspected GDPR violations. 1 investor tweeted publicly, "Is Acrasynth okay? Why did my dashboard just vanish? It wasn't a glitch. It was cause and effect. And I wasn't even watching for retaliation yet. I was watching to see who Martin would blame first. He blamed Gary. Of course he did. By Tuesday morning, Gary's name had been scrubbed off the internal Slack channels, his calendar mysteriously empty. My inside sources said Martin called it a security breach due to misconfigured permissions. Translation: someone touched Elise's software without kissing the ring first. Except Gary wasn't the one who authorized the patch. It was Rachel from Product, Martin's golden child and occasional off-site brainstorming partner. If the rumors from last year's Vegas conference were true, Rachel was the one who quietly pushed a hotfix at 2:00 a.m., hoping to strip my back-end calls. She assumed the encryption would fold like it did during QA last winter. But she didn't know I rewrote the kernel last month. Triple-layer sandbox logic. A fake endpoint feeding them garbage data, while the real engine kept receipts. Rachel's patch triggered the kill switch. A redline audit fired to every department head who ever accessed the tool. Dozens of non-compliant entries pinged live. The system flagged shadow files, suppressed API calls, and even better, recorded all admin logins for the last 90 days, including Martin's, especially Martin's. He logged in 34 times under 3 different aliases. 2 of them routed through an external IP. The third was admin test 1, the password 123. By Wednesday, legal was on fire. Nora messaged me. They pulled the logs. Shit's radioactive. Martin's claiming you breached their system. But get this, they forgot you hosted it. That was the cherry. See, the version of Clytemnestra they used wasn't internal. It was cloud deployed on my servers. They never copied it. They just routed everything through the API, which meant every login, every click, every desperate code poke ran through my logs, including the one I'd been waiting for. Martin's late-night download attempt. 1:43 a.m. Thursday morning. File requested. Clytemnestra CoreEngine PS when he tried to steal the source code. That was the final straw. I packaged the access report, signed it with a digital notary, and forwarded it, not to HR, not to legal, but to the board. Subject line: licensing breach and director conduct, immediate review requested. Attached, IP logs admin session trail voice transcript of his "We're all on the same team here, call a single line invoice update. Licensing penalty for unauthorized access attempt. $250,000 due on receipt. And I didn't send it from my personal email. I sent it from CEO@Clytemnestra.com, registered 2 weeks ago. Just in case Martin decided to test the kill switch. He did, and the fallout, oh, honey, it hadn't even started yet. The board meeting was virtual, but the carnage bled through every pixel. I wasn't on the call, obviously I wasn't invited. But Nora, she had it streaming in one tab while pretending to update a Jira ticket in another. Her recap came at 6:37 p.m. sharp. Martin tried to open with a slideshow. Slide 1 said, "Innovation through trust." Slide 2 froze. Then the chairman asked, "Do you really sign a $250,000 SAW contract without legal review?" Martin started blaming procurement. Procurement replied with, "You overrode our rejection twice. We have the emails." Rachel tried to jump in. She got muted. Then someone said, "Wait, is Elise the patent holder?" Everything went silent. 3 board members left the call without saying goodbye. But the part that made me actually laugh. Apparently Martin said, with a straight face, that I'd manipulated the company during a vulnerable transition period, that I'd weaponized intellectual property, that I had jeopardized investor trust. It's funny what they call manipulation when it's a woman who saw it coming 3 fiscal quarters ahead. See, what Martin still didn't understand, and probably never would, is that Clytemnestra wasn't just a tool. It was a trap, a Trojan horse, a legal deadfall. Every time they logged in, every time they bragged about in-house innovation, every time they copy-pasted my interface into a pitch deck, they tightened the noose. And now the rope was snapping. That night, I got an alert, a subscription downgrade from their domain. They switched off the enterprise license. Cute. At 2:02 a.m., a burst of requests came in from a suspicious IP in New Jersey, Martin's brother's house. If linked in history was to be believed, we're trying to clone the staging environment, mirror the database, reroute credentials. But I'd been waiting for this. When they hit the last credential check, the entire system triggered a cascading rollback, not just a shutdown, a message. Black screen, white font. 1 sentence, "The Queen does not ask for permission." Then a redirect, www.clytemnestra.com/legacy termination on that page, their signed license. A countdown. Client roster I'd secured using my own tool. Companies they used to own. Clients who liked my backend better than Martin's promises, one of whom already wired a deposit. By Friday morning, Martin's access badge was revoked. I know because he tried to tailgate into the office behind the janitor and tripped the security alarm. They say he yelled something about theft and lawsuit as they escorted him out. But by then, I was on a flight, headed to Seattle, because Clytemnestra had just landed a contract with a fintech group 5 times the size of a Synth, and they'd asked if I was open to being their CTO. I told them I'd consider it after I watched Martin's kingdom burn. The funny thing about corporate collapse, it doesn't explode, it leaks. The Monday after Martin's dramatic badge-begging exit, a Synth stock froze for 4 hours. SEC flagged unverified anomalies. Translation: one of their investor-facing dashboards went dark mid-quarterly sync. Guess whose code powered that sync? Mine. Nora pinged me from her personal Proton account. It's chaos. PR's drafting a statement, legals sweating blood. They just took down the entire compliance wiki because your name was all over the metadata. Also, you should know Rachel's telling people you tricked them into signing the contract. That one nearly made me choke on my chai. Tricked them. I sent that contract with 5 explanatory attachments, a license breakdown chart, and a 30-minute walkthrough video. The only trick was assuming they'd read any of it before clicking I accept. But Rachel wasn't the threat. Not anymore. The real threat came in a cease and desist letter delivered to my LLC's office in a crisp white envelope, sealed with trembling male ego. Inside, 3 pages of nonsense. That I had acted in bad faith, that I exploited internal trust, that they were prepared to pursue legal remedies if public statements continued damaging a Synth's brand. I laughed so loud my dog barked. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded it as is to the editor-in-chief of Tech Ledger Weekly. Subject line: attempted silencing after a licensed IP dispute. Here's the paper trail. Attached, the signed license agreement. Email threads where they requested exclusive backend features. Clip of Martin at an all-hands meeting calling the tool our proprietary breakthrough. By noon, Tech Ledger published a piece titled, Innovation or Appropriation? The Elise Monahan standoff that's shaking saw us. It went viral. My LinkedIn exploded. Recruiters, journalists, 3 VCs, a documentary producer. A Synth social media, silent. Their comments, not. One reply stuck with me. If you steal from the brain, expect to pay in blood. The real twist came that night. Nora texted me, holy shit. He's trying to sell your tool to a Chinese firm. She attached a screenshot, grainy but legible, of an email Martin had forwarded to someone at a firm in Shenzhen. He offered proprietary compliance logic and core source schema, asking for a $3M valuation if it passed internal testing. I read it twice, then 3 more times. Then I called my lawyer. We prosecute for attempted IP export fraud? I asked. He paused. Then he said the most beautiful sentence I'd heard all year. If you give me 72 hours, I'll bury him. It took him 36. By Wednesday morning, Martin's LinkedIn title had quietly changed from Director of Product, a Synth, to nothing at all. Just a gray placeholder and a timeline gap where his 6-figure ego used to live. But the real masterpiece wasn't the takedown, it was the letterhead. A subpoena signed by federal counsel, with the Department of Commerce seal embossed like a death knell. Subject: preliminary inquiry into unlicensed export attempt of protected IP. Turns out emailing patented U.S. software overseas, software you don't own, to negotiate a backdoor sale. It gets attention. Turns out when you also used your company email, left your metadata intact, and the system logs every login with GPS tagging. Don't just get buried, you get excavated in public. Nora called me in a whisper that afternoon like she was afraid her phone might catch fire. They raided his condo. Not a dramatic raid like khakis and laptops, but the feds took his phone, his home server, even his wife's iPad. She was crying in the hallway, said she didn't even like Clytemnestra. I didn't feel bad. His wife once called me the office girl who does the clicky math. Meanwhile, back at a Synth, a different purge had begun. Rachel was terminated without severance. Legal head resigned for personal reasons. And the board was suddenly very interested in my time. They offered me a settlement to resolve the issue. 7 figures. Quiet clause, walk away. Don't mention it again. I told them they could multiply it by 2 and I'd still decline. Because this wasn't about money anymore. It was about proof. Proof that the clever girl in the back of the room, the one who never smiled at the VP's bad jokes, the one who built her empire in silence while they paraded her code like a prop, that she'd seen it coming, and built the trap for fun. So I made them an offer instead. You can license version 3.0, I said calmly on the Zoom call. At full rate, no exclusivity, no customization. You'll use it exactly as is. No slide decks, no branding, no leaks. If we refuse, asked one VP with more gel than neurons. I smiled, leaned in. Then I'll give it to your biggest competitor. Silence. Then we'll have legal draft the agreement. I ended the call before they could say thank you. That night, I reopened a draft I'd shelved 2 years ago. A platform. Bigger than Clytemnestra. Not just compliance. Autonomous predictive ethics. Because once you've tasted blood and vindication, you don't retire. You evolve. Email came from Rachel's personal account. Subject line, off the record. I almost deleted it, but curiosity's a hell of a drug. Her message was short, desperate, wrapped in corporate speak but leaking panic through every word. I know I made mistakes. I didn't know Martin was trying to sell the IP. He looped me in after. I thought you should hear it from me, not a headline. If there's any chance for, I don't know, truce, I'd be open to a call. I stared at it for a while. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer with the note. Add this to discovery. She just admitted knowledge. What Rachel didn't know is that I'd already traced the metadata in the original export attempt. Her digital fingerprint was all over it. The moment she approved that 2 a.m. sandbox patch, she became accessory by design. And as for Martin, well, Martin had gone full roach in the light mode. 2 days earlier, tried to file a retroactive counterclaim at the patent office. Claimed Clytemnestra was developed during employment, and thus subject to shared ownership. Cute, right? Except the original prototype, timestamped, notarized, and versioned, existed on a Git repo I built while furloughed. With time-logged commits, GPS data from my home Wi-Fi, and even a Slack message from Martin himself saying, if legal asks, this is Elise's side project, not ours. Can't gaslight a woman who saves receipts in triplicate. My attorney sent a single-page rebuttal with all the attached evidence and a smiley face in the email footer. Martin's filing was rejected in under 72 hours. But the moment that rejection became public, that's when the real twist kicked in. Because someone at Blackguard Systems, a multinational compliance and surveillance firm, had been watching the drama unfold. Quietly, strategically. They reached out, followed the Clytemnestra case with interest. We believe your architecture would integrate well with our emerging AI division. If you're open to acquisition, our board would like to meet. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I asked a single question. Would I retain full creative control? Their answer, only if you want to rebuild the entire ethics infrastructure of corporate America from scratch. I poured myself a glass of wine. I hadn't just survived the ambush, it turned it into a launchpad. And Martin, he was spotted at WeWork in Hoboken, pitching a startup called Complyfly, something about compliance on the go. The name alone told me everything. He still didn't understand what he broke. He thought this was about a tool. He still didn't realize I was the system. 3 months later, I walked into a boardroom with a view of the sound, sleeveless blazer, no apology in sight, and my name etched on the door. Elise Monahan, Chief Architect, Blackguard Systems. Clytemnestra 3.2 was already in beta, not just flagging violations, but predicting them, building behavioral heat maps before lines were crossed. We had contracts with 3 Fortune 100s and 2 federal agencies. One of them asked if we could build a submodule to preempt insider threat vectors. I told them we already had, and we did. Trained the entire predictive engine on the personality profiles of people like Martin, the corner office opportunists who smiled during layoffs, the PowerPoint sociopaths who call theft initiative. Meanwhile, across synth, public audit, 6-figure fines, investor flight. The last article I saw had the headline, once a SAW S-star, now a lawsuit sinkhole. Buried halfway down was a sentence I read 3 times. Former director Martin Calhoun declined to comment, citing pending litigation and reputational harm. I saved that page, framed it, put it in the guest bathroom. But the best part? The thing that made every hour of silence, every gaslight, every weaponized performance review worth it. I got an invite to a Women in Tech summit last week. Keynote speaker me. After the speech, a young engineer with shaking hands came up and whispered, my boss told me I should just be happy to be here. I smiled, wrote down a website on a post-it, my personal incubator for women building outside the system. She unfolded it like it was sacred, and then asked, why the name Legacy Kill? I leaned in, lowered my voice, and gave her the real answer, because gratitude is a leash, and I'm here to teach women how to bite. You're the real stars of the corporate jungle. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, or I'll flick the switch on your old cubicle memories.